Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here with 3Chart, and welcome to episode 198 of my weekly Q&A show titled People's Questions, where I answer your guys' awesome questions that you've sent me over the past week. This episode was pretty standard, and I think we even might have gotten 2 new newbies that we can welcome to the channel. So starting off with the first 3 coming from a regular of mine going by the name of Santiago Scarpino, and you want to know, do I know why in Batman Arkham Asylum the Joker was exclusive to the PlayStation 3 version as a playable character? As far as I know, that was a temporarily exclusive. I do know for a fact that the Joker, the playable Joker levels, were ported over, were eventually added to the Xbox 360 over time. But I believe that at first it was exclusive to the PlayStation simply because I believe Rocksteady had made a special deal with Sony at the time to come up with these playable Joker levels. But that's as far as I know, but that's pretty standard when it comes to timed exclusive content with games, as far as I know. Next question is, which is the stupidest reason for a zombie apocalypse ever made? I'm not really sure what do you mean, like, the stupidest reason for a zombie apocalypse. I guess someone didn't wash their hands, I guess. If you saw the movie Contagion, that's actually how that whole disease spread. It was because one person didn't wash their hands. So, I don't know, maybe someone's messing with an infected corpse and they didn't wash their hands, maybe? Or, I don't know, maybe someone ate some bad shellfish? I don't know. And your last question is, which is the best to worst X-Men movie? Oh, this is an easy one. Okay, I'm going to start from my best. My favorite one is X-Men Days of Futures Past. Then it's X-Men 2, then it's First Class, then it's X-Men 1, then it's The Wolverine, then it's X-Men 3, and my least favorite X-Men movie without question is X-Men Origins Wolverine. That movie just sucked, and they screwed up Deadpool. That's a rant for another time. Going into the next question coming from Market Maine, and you're asking this question again, is it over? You know, you already told me on Facebook you were going to mention what is it in episode 199, or after 199, so don't know what you're talking about, but I guess I gotta wait 2 more episodes to know what you're talking about. The next 3 questions come from Filthy Darkness March, and you want to know, out of these 3 alien races, which do I think is the deadliest between xenomorphs, necromorphs, or arachnids? I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this one. For those of you that don't know, the arachnids are the main bug-like alien creatures from Starship Troopers, which are like giant size. I think the arachnids are the worst because xenomorphs are pretty easy to kill even with a basic firearm. And necromorphs can be killed by simply blowing off the limbs. The thing about xenomorphs and necromorphs is that necromorphs really will try to kill you so that you can become one. Xenomorphs may try to capture you alive so that they can use for hosts to grow more xenomorphs. But arachnids are really difficult to kill. It takes like a whole group of people with assault rifles to take just one down, and even while it's being shot at, it can still like attack you in like a rage berserker mode and tear you limb from limb. So if I had to pick which one was the worst, I pick arachnids because those suckers are scary in groups, especially if you've seen the first Starship Troopers movie, which I still think is awesome. So I'd go for arachnids. Your next question is, who do I think would win in a fight between Rhino versus Bane, the comic book version? I'm pretty sure Bane would win. Because although Rhino, I think, technically has more brute strength than Bane, Bane is not a stupid character, and the Rhino is. So despite the Bane may not be as strong in a physical sense than the Rhino, I think the fact that he would be able to outsmart him, which has always been the reason why Spider-Man's been able to beat the Rhino so many times, would definitely play in Bane's corner, so I think Bane would certainly win that fight. And your last question is, what was the first weapon I made in Dead Space 3? I don't know what the first weapon I made, but I'll tell you what my favorite weapon that I did make was. My favorite weapon to use throughout Dead Space 3 was a combination of the pulse rifle, and I can't think of what the second part was, but it was like a shotgun. And so I felt it was like the perfect mid-range weapon, because if I was dealing with groups, I had the machine gun section. If I was dealing with something up close, I could blow it away with the shotgun and take it out quickly. So if I ever figured out what the name for that weapon was, I'll be sure to type it down right here if I ever do find out what that was called. The next two questions come from, I believe, a newbie, but something about your names definitely sounds kind of familiar to me. Going by the name of Solid Snake 122201982. That sounds familiar to me for some reason. And you want to know, do I plan on getting the Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil Remake this January? No. I do not like playing the original Resident Evil games simply because of its controls and its gameplay style. If they made remakes that had the modern day gameplay style and they gave the players an option to play with either the original gameplay format or the much updated version, I would buy it then. But since, you know, they're sticking with original, so which means it's going to have all the same crappy controls, all the same terrible camera angles, it's going to have all the problems of the original, it's just going to be updated, so it's not a true remake. I hope they don't make that mistake with the Resident Evil 2 remake that they said they were building up from the ground up, because that was the main reason I did not pick up the first Resident Evil remastering, because it had all the same problems of the original Resident Evil. And although I have played those older games, I didn't like playing them because they had these problems that were intentionally installed because it added to the experience, and I just don't like it when publishers add terrible controls and terrible gameplay elements on purpose. So that's my problem with it. Your next question is, if they remake Resident Evil 2 and it's successful, can we expect a Resident Evil 3 Nemesis remake? I'm sure we can. I hope, again, as I said before, I hope that all you have to do is just give me the option to play with the newer gameplay style. If you do that, I'll be more than happy to buy it and recommend it to people. And if it's successful, then you can bet they will probably do one for Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, of course. The next two questions coming from certainly a newbie, and you're going by the name of Daniel Leon. Welcome to the channel. And you want to know, what were my thoughts on the latest trailer for Batman vs. Superman? Okay. I'm not going to say too much about it, but I will say this. I have no plans on watching this movie in theaters. Will I watch this eventually? Yes, of course. My fanboyism will not prevent me from seeing this movie, but I don't want to watch this in theaters. I'm just too angry on what they've done with it. I do not support it. I did not support it 5 months ago when I did a whole rant on what I did not want to see in this movie, and now that they've added it, I'm not happy about it, and I want nothing to do with this movie in theaters. And the next question is, what is my opinion on the Final Fantasy VII Remake being an episodic game? I think some people are taking that word episodic a little bit too critical. They kind of went into depth with what they meant. I think the main game itself is going to be a full game, but what they mean by episodes is there may be sections coming from other games that might be separate and may come out later. For example, I think the main Final Fantasy game itself will be one long game on its own, but there's a possibility, that they may add some levels involving Zack from Crisis Core, or Vincent from Dirge of Cerberus, or maybe playing as a member of Turks in Before Crisis. I think that's what they meant by episodic. I think that there's certain story elements of Final Fantasy VII which are separate that will come later, but are still connected to the main Final Fantasy VII plot. I mean, heck, there's even a possibility that we might get some levels taking place during Advent Children, which will be playable, which will be its own episode. So I think that's what they meant. And they said that Final Fantasy VII, the remake, was going to be episodic. And sorry, just a car went past. The next question comes from Dr. Hino419. Welcome back. And you want to know, how did I feel about Kojima not being able to go to the Video Game Awards? Everyone's been talking about this, and I already hated Konami. I did not like what they did with Metal Gear Solid 5, and in fact, I'm absolutely positive they tampered with that game, because there were just too many elements about that game that I do not believe would come from Hideo Kojima himself, which is why I disliked it. I don't like talking about it, and I have no intention on playing it again. In fact, I don't even consider it canon, in my opinion. But what they did at the Video Game Awards was, you know, they're digging themselves into their own grave, because this is going to backfire on them big time. I mean, I already hated them But this took it to a whole nother level, because how can you deny this guy? I mean, even if you don't like him, I don't know what happened between these two. I don't know what happened, but it could not have been this bad to allow this kind of behavior from a company that I once respected. I mean, don't get me wrong, Square Enix did some really serious bullshit things with that whole 13 trilogy, but they're making it up to us. And I'm happy to see that they're making a comeback. But from something like this, unless Konami eventually comes out with a full-blown out apology to Hideo Kojima and he accepts it, I have no intentions on ever associating myself with anything Konami related, unless it came during the time that Hideo Kojima was there. So as far as I know, Konami can just burn in hell. I mean, I already think it's the worst company ever, period, in terms of game publishers, and I have no intention on playing any of their games that they're publishing from this point on, but that was just, that was beyond the last straw. That is just disrespectful in the biggest of ways. And the last two questions come from Nick the Ninja, and you wanted me to give you my thoughts on a versus matchup between these two characters. I can't even pronounce the first guy, but versus Naruto, or Narat. I don't even know how to say this name. I don't watch the show, so I can't answer that question because I don't know what these guys do. They might be ninjas. I can't tell you. I don't watch the show, so I can't really answer that question. And your last question was, what is my opinion on Golden Sun? I've never actually played Golden Sun. I know it's an RPG. I know it's a very popular series. Just from what I've seen of it, it just doesn't seem like the type of RPG that I personally would enjoy, and its stories and settings seem a little off to me. I know it has its fan base, and I'm glad this is probably one of your favorite RPGs of all time, but if I haven't played it by now, chances are there was just something about it that rubbed me the wrong way, and I have no interest in playing it. But I'm happy you enjoy it so much. And with that, those are all the questions you guys have for this particular episode. I'd like to thank all of you guys for making this episode possible. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in episode 199 next Friday, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them into me before next Wednesday before I start filming this. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below with your future video ideas. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.